Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Janine and I love to paint. In my previous video, I tested out some colored pencils to see if I can revive my love for them. Even with all the hacks I used, I came to the conclusion that I simply prefer supplies that let me finish a painting faster. In this video, I want to compare colored pencils to watercolor pencils to see if they are actually faster or if it's just my own perception. I use 160 gram mixed media paper by Canson, a pencil, a medium-sized brush, Crayola colored pencils, and watercolor pencils by Castel arts. Let's begin with the outline. Even though I just want to paint an easy feather, an outline will help me to center it on the paper, get the size right, as well as the overall shape. It is easy to get carried away while painting and simply stray away from the intended size or shape. This is where the outline will really help me. In order to make it possible to compare the two feathers, I picked similar colors: a light blue, a dark blue or purple, and a pink as a contrast color. Some of the white paper will also shine through as a highlight. Using colors which are on the opposite side of the color wheel will make each of the colors pop. The contrast is simply bigger. Using two shades of blue will help me to tie the painting together while keeping it interesting. Let's hope that painting like this for the camera will not smudge the pigment. Even though colored pencils are not a wet medium, you can still smudge the pigment when you rub over it with your hand. I'm right-handed, so I paint the feather on the left side first. One of the secrets to mastering colored pencils is to understand that they sometimes need to be added in many different layers on top of each other. This will take a while, but create the best result possible. The colors don't have a strict division, but rather overlay a little. This will help make the transition soft and allow the areas I'm painting to appear as one piece. In order to create the look I want, I add many thin lines. Painting this feather is easier when the pencil is somewhat sharp, or at least pointy. I add many small lines to increase how opaque the colors are. A great way to add more color variation is to play with a white background. The colored pencils are not covering every millimeter perfectly or even fully. Allowing some white to shine through outside of the white highlights will make it look so much more interesting. Let's finish the feather by adding the centerpiece. For this, I'm using my darkest color, allowing a soft blend towards the other colors. Using a strong color, especially blue, will help visually make the area appear further away or in the shadow. This is a perfect way to complement the white highlights. Let's start with the watercolor pencils. I add the pencil to the paper and then activate it with water. The watercolor pencils are applied in multiple layers to achieve the best results. Let me explain a little trick I'm using. When the watercolor pencil is sharp, like with a pointy tip, and when I press, it leaves a small indentation on the paper. The pigment in that indentation is usually not dissolved immediately when I activate the pigment with water. You would have to rub with a brush over it a few times. When water pools in the indentations, it activates the pigment, but gravity keeps them in place. Also, some of the loose pigment will pool in those indentations. How easy the pigment is dissolved depends on the brand of pencils and the individual color. But in general, I apply the pencil in many small lines, just like the colored pencils. The pressure increases with each layer, after drying I mean. This will leave some of the pencil lines visible, making the painting more lively and vibrant. I drag pigment around on the paper with my damp brush. This is why every stroke with the brush follows the direction of the pencil line. If a line or brush stroke would be visible in the final painting that does not follow in the direction of the others, it would definitely stand out. I accelerate the drying time with a hairdryer. When you apply the watercolor pencil to wet or damp paper, the pencils get activated. This leaves intense streaks of color which are hard to dissolve. The pencils can also break the wet and therefore fragile paper. As soon as the paper is fully dry, I apply the next layer of watercolor pencil and activate it with a damp brush. This layer really intensifies the colors and helps to add to the variation in the colors, making the feather look more interesting overall. When applying the pencils, I press harder than before to create deeper indentations in the paper, which will result in visually more interesting and darker lines. Adding some clear water where the white highlight is, just before activating the pencils, helps to create soft transitions. I decide to add a pink band on top of the light blue. Letting the blue shine through makes it look really cool. This is one of the unique things about watercolor. The pigments are translucent, letting you play with adding different colors on top of each other. Before adding the next layer, I dry everything again with a hairdryer. To accelerate the process and speed up the total painting time, I take some pigment directly off of the watercolor pencil with a damp brush. This is my chance to intensify the colors once more. The centerpiece is a little more tricky to add. I also decide against adding it as a very dark white line, like with the colored pencil before. This will take the attention away from other details, like the pink line near the top. The paper you are using makes such a big difference in the methods required to complete this painting. I'm using thinner paper than I normally would, and the pigment does not soak up in the fiber of the paper as nicely. Like you can see near the top of the feather, the paper reaches the point where it is simply flat and unable to accept more layers. Barely any pigment from the pencil will rub off on the paper. An easy workaround here is to apply the pigment directly with the brush. Painting the feather with watercolor pencils took 30 minutes without drying time. The colored pencil one took 23 minutes to complete. So I just disproved my theory that I do not like colored pencils because they are a slow medium. After this experiment, I do not dislike them as much anymore. I still prefer watercolor pencils, and I think I know why. One can relatively fast achieve a great coverage with a vibrant color. Blending it is so easy, and it feels like the process of painting is a lot faster. I would love to hear what you prefer, colored pencil or watercolor pencils. And please tell me why. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon with the next video.